of the Cults by Walter Martin, edited by Robbie Zacharias. Christian Apologetics, a comprehensive case for the biblical faith for Douglas Groothius. Biola EDU offers an Apologetics to Islam. It's about 8 courses long, looking at about 9 to 10 hours of material there. By Nabil Qureshi, former Muslim who converted into Christianity and now works for RZIM. Great speaker. As far as where you can find information on the Quran, and the Quran is QuranExplorer.com. Also has a Muslim commentary on that, so you can read what they think about particular passages that we talk about. Hadith and other texts can be found at usc.edu, and they have the major, most accepted, most counted as reliable hadiths by Muslims on that website for you to view. All that is, all the websites are for free, including the Biola University lectures, all free. The books you have to pay for. Islam, we mentioned, is Unitarian monotheistic. We contrasted that to Christian view of Trinitarian monotheistic. And therefore, if you just look at that, they cannot be the same God just based on that basis alone. They have different fundamental properties of being. They cannot be the same God. And that's something that you will run into. A lot of people will say, well, the Jews, Muslims, and Christians all worship the same God. Well, no. If you ask any Jew, Muslim, or Christian, they will all tell you, no, they don't. Unless they're real liberal and they don't read the scriptures at all. You have something, Eli? I can tell you're thinking hard.
No.
Okay. All right.
How about Jews? So,
What about?
well, Jews worship the same
Jews
God,
could,
right? Or wrong?
because Jews only believe one. They don't believe in the Holy Spirit or Jesus.
Right. What the Jews would say is if we believe in Yahweh as revealed by Moses and the prophets, Muhammad is revealing a different God in Allah. And as we'll look later, you'll see how the Quran directly goes against Jews and Christians as being idol worshippers, and so, or worshiping a false God. And so it just doesn't seem possible. I mean, saying that someone could think that they all three worship the same God, I will say yes, someone could say that, but according to the text in which they say the religion is founded on, they cannot say that consistently. That's what I would say.
Well, they go back to Ishmael and Abraham. So, if you look at it that way, at one time they did worship the same God.
Who did?
The Jews.
Jews worshipped what?
Same God as a Christian.
What do you?
Well, no, they did work. Ishmael is supposed to be the father of Islam. That's where the Islam came from. His side of the family. And early on, they did worship the same. I mean, Ishmael, his mama, did worship the same God.
Now, you're talking about, like, of course, Muhammad in the 600s.
Right, we're not
AD.
talking 600. We're talking with Ishmael, his mama,
And there were no Muslims
Abraham.
back in Ishmael's day.
No, there wasn't. But when he left off, they broke off,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where the Arab side.
That's the 2,500 year.
Yeah, I
Skip, right?
understand.
But I mean,
I understand. But see, people still go back to that because the first
they're the
five books,
Canaanites.
the first 5, the Torah is in both there. Now you do know that not this Pope, but the Pope before that said we worship the same God.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
just that they were not, that Jesus has really not been exposed, have come to Islam and so.
Okay. We looked at the amount of people that hold to Islam. Over 1.8 billion people worldwide. You're looking at about a quarter of the population on the planet are Muslim. Christianity is bigger, but that's still a very significant amount of people, and they are growing very rapidly under the iron foot of Islam, as I'll call it. You either convert or you take convert. All right, moving through, we looked at the Quran, what the Quran teaches. We looked at the difference in inspiration. The Quran is didactic. Sorry, losing my words here. The Quran is given as the word of Allah. They think the Quran is guarded in paradise in Arabic. It is actual words of Allah. It wasn't Allah did not inspire someone to write His book, as we believe God inspired men, moved to the Holy Spirit, and Peter's letters. Confluent inspiration. That's dictation. You have inspiration, not didactic. The Hadith, there's a lot of Hadith. The popular ones is Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and Sunan Abu Dawud. Those are the deeds and words of Muhammad supposedly written down. Those are controlled by the Isnad. How they look at a chain of transmission is how reliable those Hadith are. History of Islam, we looked at the birth of the Prophet around 570 AD. Later, his family did die. We looked at his two most well-known wives, one in the 40s, that's Mary Khadija, and then Aisha, the 6-year-old he brought in and consummated that marriage at 9 years of age, and we looked at that. His travels, he was born in Mecca. Once his family died off, they pushed him out to Medina. He grew in power. In Medina, him being an Arab, but also a monotheistic preacher, was liked by the Jews because he's monotheistic, liked by the Arabs because he's Arab, and quickly rose in political power, and I think that's how he got his following, was doing that and then winning battles, winning little wars and gaining the following. They looked at his victories as a move of Allah to confirm his voice as a prophet of God. The Battle of Badr was his first one, then the Battle of Uhud, and then the Battle of the Trench later. And Islam continued to grow. We looked at how his followers continued to take over lands, and a lot of people will die at the sword of Islam. Lastly, we looked at the 80% of the Armenian population, 1.5 million people between 1950 and 1980, a ton of people. Slavery, huge in Islam. You just know getting around it, even in the 1990s. And there was a question brought up that I didn't get the answer last time, and I was a little bit unsure of it, but it was the Muslims that were raiding the caravans of the Meccans. And I was a little bit unsure of that. Checked it back, it was them, and so they started the Battle of Badr, the first one. Doctrine of Islam, we looked at Allah, one God, angels and demons. They weigh the deeds of mankind to determine whether they'll go to paradise or the fire. They also give the word of Allah, as Gabriel supposedly gave it to Muhammad. They look back into history, as we were talking about a little bit earlier. They look back and call all the old prophets Muslims, that they worshipped Allah, including Jesus. The holy books, they believe in the Torah, the Psalms, the Gospel, the Injil is what it's called. They believe them to be given by Allah. Looked at salvation. It was ultimately works-based. Your deeds will be weighed on a scale. Predestination, Allah decides who will be saved. We looked at the practices of Islam, the Shahada, where you recite this, there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is the prophet of Allah, and you're supposed to be taking at your word at that by Muslims, and they will believe that you have converted. It's a chant. They say it a lot. We looked at the Salat, the 5 daily prayers facing Mecca. This is practices they do a lot. It's not something they just sort of skimp out on. They do. Zakat, the giving of alms, about 2.5% to Islamic charity. And then the Psalm, which is the fast during the month of Ramadan. They don't eat between sunrise and sunset. They eat other hours when it's still dark. The Hajj, Muslim must at least one point of his life make it to Mecca. And you see all of them going up there around that black box.
What's in the black box?
Black box. I think it is like that's all I've heard. There might be another name, but most refer to as a black box. Someone might be able to look that up. I'm sure that's all over the internet.
There's a stone on the corner of it.
A stone on the. I've heard of a small stone that people will often touch or kiss because they believe that Muhammad kissed it as well. They believe that some people believe it has healing powers, and some Muslims think it is a meteorite. So, yeah, praise God. Treatment of wives, we looked at that last, how men are caretakers of their wives, and if they are rebellious, then they're supposed to try to convince them, and then if they're still rebellious, leave them in the bed alone, and if they're still rebellious, then beat them. And,
I want you to know that caused problems for me.
Sort of and we watched a video, a YouTube video of a scholar talking about that. We'll skip that. And we made it to jihad in Islam. I want to talk about that because that's a very relevant topic today. A lot of people are curious. And you have Muslims on both sides of the fence saying two different things. Good. And we have to look at the Quran and try to do the best that we can in interpreting the Quran. I just want to, speak a little bit about Christianity to get your mind rolling on this and method of interpretation. In Christianity, we have a big H word. Does anybody know what that H word is in the interpretation?
Holy Spirit.
He does guide us in interpretation. Eli, do you know it?
I'm not sure what.
Hermeneutics.
Oh.
Hermeneutics, the
that's
method of
right.
interpretation. What that is the study of culture, genre, context, authorship, audience. You got to look at these things if you want to correctly interpret a verse. Not to say that you cannot do it without it, but those things help you to make sure you're getting what we're aiming for when we're interpreting any text, and that is the author's intent. What did Paul have in his mind whenever he was writing Romans? What was he wanting to convey to the church in Rome? And if we can figure that out, then we can know how we are supposed to understand Paul. Okay? In Islam, they have sort of the same thing. But they have one major twist on theirs. Because remember, this is not like the Bible. The Quran is not anything like the Bible. You have 40 different authors, 66 books, over 1,500 years on 3 continents. I mean, you're just looking at a ton of different things going on, and you have one cohesive message given the whole time. Okay, and we're looking from creation to the Bible speaks of the apocalypse. And so you just got a breadth of different things going on, all kinds of different genres and everything. Well, the Quran is not like that at all. This is one man receiving revelations at different points in times and different circumstances and speaking into those circumstances. Okay, this is what's going on in the Quran. Completely different than the Bible. And so we got to take that into consideration when we're looking at it. Let's look at the interpretation of the Quran. And that will help us to understand the question at hand is jihad taught or commanded in the Quran to Muslims today? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And to do that, we need to be able to read the Quran correctly and use rules of interpretation correctly.
I'm sorry, I had to step down.
Yep.
What is jihad?
Jihad, well, it's defined by Muslims in different ways. Some people would say that there's an inner jihad, like you're fighting bad desires, and some people would say, well, that's what it's talking about. That's one message that the Quran speaks of, the inner jihad. And then some people would say jihad is warfare against unbelievers. And so we're just a holy war jihad. Okay, and so we'll have to look and see exactly what does the Quran tell us that jihad is about. So in Islam, there is a term called abrogation. Abrogation is a legal term referring to the, quote, destruction or annulling of a former law by an act of legislative power, by constitutional authority, or by usage. That's what we call it. So let me just sort of break that down here for you. Let's look at the Quran and see what it says about this verse. Whenever we replace a verse with another verse, this is Muhammad talking, and Allah knows well what He reveals, they say. You are but a forger. The fact rather is that most of them are ignorant. Say, this has been brought down from Ruhul Qudus, the Holy Spirit, Jebrail, through Gabriel, from your Lord rightly, as do, so that it may bring firmness to the believers and become guidance and good news for the Muslims. Surah 13, 38 to 39. We have sent messengers before you and gave them wives and children. It is not for a messenger to bring a verse without the will of Allah. For every age there are some rules prescribed. Allah wipes off what He wills and affirms what He wills, and with Him is the mother book. Now, what Muhammad is saying is that if Allah rules one way at one point and says, be at peace with these people, do them good, forgive them their iniquities, and treat them kindly, and then later on says, demolish these people, kill them, wherever you find them, then, we have a contradiction there. What do we do? And if we saw that in Paul in Romans, and we see that, it's like, well, my goodness, here's a contradiction in the Bible. But not in the Quran. No. Whichever command was given later takes precedence. It overrules the earlier command. And so at any point in time, Muhammad can speak forth, or Allah, and say, do this, and no matter what he said before, it doesn't matter. The later command takes precedence. Okay? So we need to find out which surahs, remember, surahs are chapters, ayats are verses in the Quran, which surahs were given later, which were the last ones given. That's what we need to find out, that's what we need to know, so we can figure out what Muslims are supposed to be doing according to the Quran today. If we look at a surah that was given first, we're wasting our time to find out what they ought to be practicing. Let's look at something that maybe gives us an idea. Many Muslims will point to verses like this to condemn acts of terror and violence that their brethren commit in the name of Islam. Okay, so say some group ISIS goes out and starts slaughtering people, shooting them up, and a Muslim will stand up and say, no, look what the Holy Quran says. For this reason, we decreed for the children of Israel that whoever kills a person not in retaliation for a person killed, nor as a punishment for the spreading of disorder on the earth, is as if he had killed the whole of humankind. Whoever saves the life of a person is as he has saved the life of the whole humankind. Certainly our messengers have come to them with clear signs. Then, after all that, many of them are there to commit excesses of the earth. How nice. Ain't that good?
Yeah.
That's nice. And look at there. He says if a person is killed and it's done wrongfully, it's as if he's killed the whole earth. And if he saves a person, it's as if he saved the whole humankind. I mean, look at there. That's from the Quran. And so you'll hear things like that, and it sounds like, wow, these people in ISIS really are acting out of their minds. They're killing people against their own religion. What Quran are they reading? Well, what's the problem with pointing out this verse? Well, I'll give you a hint. I mean, I'll tell you something my theory off. The surahs, as far as they're concerned, this is Surah 5, Al-Ma'idah, and then it goes Surah 9, Al-Tabo, and then you got the last Surah, Surah Nazir, and that's the last one. This is only 3 from the last. This is the third one from the very last Surah, according to Mission Islam.
Well, they give a lot of carve-outs. You can kill a person if it's in retaliation, you can kill a person as punishment, you can kill a person for...
Spreading disorder.
Now wait a minute. Make sure, now I'm hoping somebody might catch that. Read the first line there, real carefully. Who's Muhammad talking to? Who's he talking about? Ooh, is he talking to Muslims? Oh, man. Let's look at that a little closer. Let's read the rest of the verses. This is the children of Israel, not Muslims. What's the verse after that? Those who fight against Allah and His Messenger and run about trying to spread disorder on the earth their punishment is no other than they shall be killed, or be crucified, or their hands and legs be cut off from different sides, or they be kept away from the land they live in. That is a humiliation for them in this world, and for them there is a great punishment in the hereafter. Except those who repent before you, overpower them. Then be sure that Allah is most forgiving, very merciful, yes. All you who believe, fear Allah and seek means of nearness to Him, and carry out jihad in His way, so that you may succeed. Now, let me stop right there. Does this word jihad look like someone's fighting an inner battle of sin? Or does it look like they're trying to overpower someone?
There's a lot of cutting and slashing there.
Yes.
Now, let's get, surely if the disbelievers have all that is in the earth and more as much besides it, to pay it as ransom against the punishment of the day of judgment, it shall not be accepted from them, and they will have a painful punishment. They will wish to come out of the fire, but will not be able to come out of there. For them will be a lasting punishment. That's the risk. So if you're a person of Israel, then be at peace. Be at peace. Don't retaliate. Don't retaliate. But if you are a Muslim and someone is fighting against Allah and His messenger and trying to run and spread disorder on the earth, whatever that means, they need to be punished. Context, context, context. Now let me tell you this. And I've learned this from just briefly studying Greek, what I have. It's not as simple as looking up a little word in a dictionary and opening it up. Context rules, even when you're looking at the original languages of a book. And so, just because we do not know Arabic does not mean we cannot understand exactly what this surah is saying. The last commandments. Let's see what the last surahs say. The last surah, Al-Nazr, is only a few verses. It's only 3 verses, and it just basically says that Allah will support you in this. But the last 2, we're going to look at 5 and 9. And if you want to look at the last one on your own, you can. It's not much. These are very long, by the way. Surah 5, Surah 9, well over 100 verses long apiece. Pretty sure not Surah 5. Is it then the judgment of the days of ignorance that they seek? Who is better in judgment than Allah for a people who believe? All you who believe, do not take the Jews and Christians for intimate friends. They are friends to each other. Whoever takes them as intimate friends is one of them. Surely Allah does not take the unjust people to the right path. Got to be clear. Got to be clear. Don't be a friend with a Jew or a Christian. And if you do take them as a friend, you're one of them. And He will not lead the unjust people. Who is the unjust people in that verse? Who? Who else could it be in context here?
Jews and Christians.
It can't be anybody else. I mean, you just got to read. This is very small, I know. I wanted to get the whole thing on there. I should have split it up into 2. I'm very sorry. If you want to go look at it on your own, you can. I'll read it to you. Say, if your fathers and your sons and your brothers and your spouse and your clan and the wealth you have earned and the trade you apprehend will receive and the homes you are like a dearer to you than Allah and His messenger and jihad in His way, then wait until Allah comes with His command. Allah does not lead the sinning people to the right path. Allah has surely blessed you with His help on many battlefields and on the day of Hunain. When you were proud of your great number, then it did not help you at all, and the earth was straitened for you despite all its vastness. Then you turned back on your heels. Then Allah sent down His tranquility upon His messenger and upon the believers, and sent down troops that you did not see, and punished those who disbelieved. That it is recompense. That is the recompense of the disbelievers. Yet Allah relents after that to whomever He wills. Allah is most forgiving, very merciful. All you who believe, the mushriks. Does anybody remember what I talked about? Mushriks. You remember that? You remember the prohibition against the sin of shirk, ascribing partners to Allah. Remember what we talked about with the Trinity? Anybody who ascribes partners to Allah has committed this sin. It's unforgivable in Islam. A mushrik is someone who has committed such a sin. That's the name He's given to it, okay? The mushriks are impure indeed, so let them not approach someplace. After this year. And if you apprehend poverty, then Allah shall, if He wills, make you self-sufficient with His grace. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Fight those people of the book. Who's the people of the book? Using Christians mainly. Who do not believe in Allah, nor in the last day, and do not take as unlawful what Allah and His messenger have declared as unlawful, and do not profess the faith of truth. Fight them until they pay jizya. What's jizya? A tax put upon non-Muslims. Until they pay the jizya with their own hands while they are subdued. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and Christians say the Christ is the son of Allah. That is their oral statement. They imitate the saying of the earlier disbelievers. May Allah ruin them. How far they are turned back from the truth. They have taken their rabbis and their monks as gods besides Allah. And also they have taken Musa, that's Messiah, Jesus, the son of Maryam, as God. And they were not commanded to worship, but to worship only one God. There is no God but He. Pure is He from what they associate with Him. They wish to blow out the light of Allah with their mouths, and Allah rejects everything short of making His light perfect, no matter how the disbelievers may hate it. He is the one who has sent down His messenger with guidance and the faith of truth, so that He makes it prevail over every faith, no matter how the mushriks may hate it. O you who believe, many of the rabbis and the monks do eat up the wealth of the people by false means and prevent them from the way of Allah. As for those who accumulate gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah, give them the good news of painful punishment. On the day the wealth will be heated up in the fire of Jahannam, then their foreheads and their sides and their back shall be branded with it. That is what you had accumulated for yourselves, so taste what you've accumulated. And so, I mean, I don't think it'd be more clear. And the reason I grabbed such a huge portion of text is very often the accusation is you're taking this out of context. I can't fit more context on that screen. Take it or leave it. I think it says, fight them. And specifically, it doesn't say, notice what, because some people will say, well, the Jews and the Christians were oppressing the Muslims. That's not what the text says. That's not the reason the text gives for him to fighting them. Why? Because the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah and Christians say Christ is the son of Allah. That is the reason they fight them. And I said that on the very next slide. Look at the context. We can only use the text and what the text specifically says about them as the reason why he's fighting them. That is why Muhammad gave the command. They have turned back from the truth, is what he said. May Allah ruin them. And then Surah 9, verse 111. Surely Allah has bought their lives and their wealth from the believers in exchange of the promise the paradise shall be theirs. They fight in the way of Allah and killed and are killed. That's talking about Muslims. On which there is a true promise, as made in the Torah and the Injil and the Quran. And who can be more faithful to His covenant than Allah? So rejoice in the deal you have made, and that is a great achievement. So that is the Muslims' purpose there. Fight in the way of Allah, kill and be killed. This may be, it possibly could be, I just thought of this, so don't take it with a huge grain of salt. This true promise right here, could it be that if, that some people might use this verse as saying that if you die in jihad, then you attain paradise? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I thought it said.
Surah 9, verse 122, 123. It is not necessary for all the believers to go forth, so why should it not be that a group from every section of them goes forth so that they may acquire perfect understanding of the faith, and so that they may warn their people when they return to them, so that they may take due care of the rules of Sharia. All you who believe, fight those disbelievers who are near to you, and let them find severity in you. Know well that Allah is with the God-fearing. When jihad is called by the state, Muhammad is saying it's not necessary that all go forth, but does command that they should fight the unbelievers near them. Okay, any questions about that? Is there anybody that's still sort of like I'm unclear on whether or not that text really commands Muslims to go forth and fight the unbelievers? You know, I just think it's what it teaches. Go ahead.
My sister is married to a Muslim from Jordan, and she's converted to Muslim, and she has told me, and I was blaspheming her. And she said, you know, we grew up in the same church. She said, how do you believe that Jesus is God? And I said, how do you not believe?
Amen.
But, so I've experienced that personally, and if you can't get past that, because that's their major thing, because it's the last command, obviously. That makes sense to me now more, so you can't get past that, you can't reach them. And so, at some point, you just have to, in my experience, I've had to back off. And I've had to live my life before her and love her regardless, and just pray,
For
pray
a long
for the
time,
Holy
she
Spirit.
wouldn't even speak to you,
Yeah, for a long time she didn't.
more than a year.
Why did they believe in Islam? I'm just curious. I mean, I have seen no reason to be a Muslim. Why? Can somebody help me understand what is
One reason
the
there's no
benefit here?
accountability.
What is the, huh?
There's no accountability to them.
So that's appealing.
That's appealing to them. There's really no accountability.
No, they're accountable to Allah.
Well, yeah, but not like, it's not the same.
So maybe,
Allah, they read something and what they read that day is what it means. They read something else another day, that's what it means. And so there's really, it changes. In Christianity, it's the same all the way through, but in the Quran, it's not, it changes. It also depends what they read.
I guess something that I might say towards maybe why you don't see that as much. 1.8 billion people, and it's very small, I would say. Let me retract that. The minority of Muslims carry out these commands. Minority of the Muslims carry out those commands we just read. Why? Why not more? And it may possibly be with the hadith they choose to read to help interpret the Quran. It could be their imam. Islam is more authoritarian than like most of the Christians you run into around here. If their pastor tells them something, they're going to take that, and they may or may not. They decide with themselves if they're going to agree with him or not. In Islam, it's if my mom tells me something, then they take that. And so maybe that would explain why they don't want to. And two, these passages are very radical, and I think their own conscience bears witness against following these commands, and so that could be the other reason. I'm trying to just think of some things that why they might not carry that out more, because rest assured, I think probably the majority of Muslims would disagree with me about those passages. They probably would, but I'm just trying to handle the text the best of the way that I can.
Is Sharia mentioned earlier in the Quran, or just at the end?
I don't know that one.
That'd be a good thing, because that's what's going on now is Sharia, and that's where, and more Muslims are going into Sharia. But again, God says they're going to hate you.
So the last commandments we just talked about had to do with like Sharia law, pretty much.
So section number 2, understanding response.
Sorry. I was wondering what was going on there. Go ahead.
The last commandments we just covered, they cover pretty much the Sharia law. That's what I was talking about.
No, that would be more found in the hadith as far as I know. The carrying out of that. More found.
Spell that so we can write it down, right?
Sharia?
No, not Sharia, but
Hadith?
Hadith,
Hadith.
Was that like a book or something, or?
They're very, very large. There's a very large amount of hadith, multiple volumes of writings that were written supposedly of the words and deeds of Muhammad and what he taught. And so they're not as the Quran is looked at like that, but it's sort of like
commentary?
an inspired commentary. Is a good way to think about it. Semi-inspired commentary. And so they would look at that. And go,
What does Islam, Muslim, and jihad mean again? Like the actual meaning of those words?
Islam is the religion as given by Muhammad. It is the religion proper. Muslim and Islam means submission. Muslim means one who submits, and a Muslim is a person who follows the teachings of Islam and submits himself to Islam. And jihad, as looking at the verses, I would say are eradication of unbelievers and those who oppose Islam.
Does it mean struggle? Is that?
You might be more than
No,
that.
you taught last. You said some word last week means struggle, but I forgot which it was.
I have to look back at that.
So radical Islam would be the same as maybe
I think it was jihad he's talking about, Danny.
a faithful
Jihad.
Christian.
Same.
A radical
Too.
Muslim
Yes.
would be about the same as a faithful.
And you mean
In other words, someone who is killing and murdering the infidel, that would be a faithful.
that would be one who follows the teachings of Muhammad faithfully, I think.
That's not radical Islam.
One who kills.
Yeah.
That would. I know what you're saying now. No, that
I mean, the
is
news says-
normal.
yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah.
In the same way that a person who follows the teachings of Jesus and the epistles and the Bible to their fullest effect would be a normal Christian. Yes.
But, what I've seen with Islam and with the Muslims, it's very much works based.
Absolutely.
Everything they do is based on works. Whenever I hear my sister saying and scolding the children, it's time to pray. Put up the games. You've got to pray. You know, and she's struggling, you know, with trying to get the obedience there of even with the children for them to see a purpose in it. So, you know, it's very much works based and
Absolutely.
and hoping that what they do is enough. And if they somehow miss, my sister gets up in the middle of the night and gets her family up, and you know she cooks at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And they get up and eat it because they have to eat before. And if I'm talking to her and the sun is going down, she said, "I've got to get off now. It's time to break fast." You know, it's very much
Yeah.
routine, and it's yeah.
Works.
Even and remember, even the prayers that I mentioned were just recitations. They're not like we think of prayers where you're, as David would say, pouring your heart out before the Lord. These are
It's scripted.
These are scripted prayers, and some of them. I mean, you can listen to the lectures given by Nabil. He didn't even know what he was saying for a large portion of his life. Didn't know he was just rattling off Arabic. Didn't know what it meant. Anyway, we'll go on. Okay, what does Islam say about Jesus? And this is a very short section, but it will lead into our final section of a Christian response to Islam. The Islamic, and notice I've got quotations around the word Jesus. You need to be very careful about this, and I'm going to say this. And when you're dealing with cults, to define a cult is any system of belief that deviates on the person or the work of Jesus Christ, yet claims to be authentic. Okay? So that is any system of belief that deviates on the person or the work of Jesus Christ, yet claims to be authentic. That is an occult. So, whenever we look at other religions and occults, whenever I talk about Jesus in their sense, recognize that I mean, and I surely believe as the day is long, this is a different Jesus. This is not the historical Jesus that walked the earth. They use the same vocabulary, but use a different dictionary. A lot. Okay? According to the Quran, Jesus was a mere prophet who performed miracles. He is called the Messiah and is said to be sinless, even though the Quran says Muhammad indeed sinned, Surah 47:19. The Quran denies the Trinity explicitly, and Allah calls Jesus his slave and denies his sonship. Let's read Surah 4:171-172. O people of the book, be not excessive in your faith, and do not say about Allah anything but the truth. The Messiah, Jesus, the son of Miriam, is the only messenger of Allah and His word that He had delivered to Miriam, and the Spirit from Him. So believe in Allah and His messengers. Do not say 3. Stop it. That is good for you. Allah is the only one God. He is far too pure to have a son. To Him belongs what is in the heavens and what is in the earth, and Allah is enough to trust in. The Messiah shall never spurn to be a slave of Allah, nor shall the angels who are stationed near to Him. And whoever spurns to worship Him and shows arrogance, then He shall gather all of them before Himself. Okay, so very clearly, He's not a son. Allah does not have a son. The Quran teaches that He's too pure to have a son. And notice He says, do not say 3, stop it. What's He talking about? The Trinity, of course.
Oh, people of the book. Does that mean Christians and Jews?
Christians and yeah, mainly Christians, depending on context there. Most importantly, the Quran denies Jesus being crucified or dying for our sins, and for their disbelief, and for what they said against Miriam as a grim imputation, and for their saying, quote, we have certainly killed the Messiah, the son of Miriam, the messenger of Allah, while in fact they did neither kill Him nor crucify Him, but were deluded by resemblance. Those who disputed in this matter are certainly in doubt about it. They have no knowledge of it, but they follow winds. It is absolutely certain that they did not kill Him, but Allah lifted Him towards Himself. Allah is almighty, all-wise. Remember that. Remember that. We'll come back to it. We see here that Muhammad was obviously confused about what the Trinity is. This is a big deal. He doesn't know what the Trinity is. Remember, 600 AD, and the Trinity was decided on a long time ago. Long time ago it was decided as Orthodox Christianity. We have manuscripts that go a long time before Muhammad. They weren't teaching something different. We know. We can read them. Okay, so he just gets it wrong. Surah 5, 116 through 118. And when Allah said, oh, I'm going to just say the name. It's not Jesus, son of Mary, did you say to the people, take me and my mother as gods beside Allah? Who does he think the Trinity is?
It's but Mary.
Mary, Jesus, and the Father.
Oh my goodness.
He said, pure are you. It does not behoove me to say what is right for me. Had I said it, you would have known it. You know what is in my heart, and I do not know what is in yours. You alone have full knowledge of all that is unseen. I have not said to them anything but what you have ordered me to say. That is, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord, and I was a witness over them as long as I was with them. But when you recalled me, you were the one watching over them. You are a witness over everything. If you punish them, they are your slaves after all. But if you forgive them, you are mighty wise. What are people called in Islam? Was it slaves? Slaves. And not as you're subjecting yourself to be a slave or a servant, but you are just set to be a slave. All right. So that's what it's